Hello and welcome back to the Flower Stage in East Prague on Saturday. We are continuing our schedule with our next talk from Devansh Mehta. He will talk about decentralized outcome funding for investigative reporting, who himself is also an investigative reporter, so he will be reporting from inside what's going on. So, applause for Devansh.
Hey, is everyone able to hear me? Yeah, nice. So, as Khan mentioned, I'm an investigative reporter myself. I don't know why these slides are not showing over here, but they seem to be missing. But long story short, like I've worked, like when I was in college, I started a magazine. That's how I started my journey as a reporter. And after the first issue, the principal banned the magazine. He decided that he didn't like the content we were producing, and we ran an interview where he said many stupid things, like the vice chancellor is not giving us enough money and other things. So we had him on video, so we published it, and soon after he decided to ban the magazine. And I was very upset at that. We put a lot of effort into it, so I spoke to the media. He started a committee against me, and they decided to suspend me a week before graduation. And then I filed a lawsuit against him challenging the suspicion, and I won that lawsuit. So it was a real entry into the idea of like speaking truth to power and standing up for it at some risk to myself. After that, I went to the Columbia Journalism School, where I specialized in investigative reporting. And the best part was that I was there at the time that the Panama Papers came out. So some of my professors there were working on that, and they roped me in as well to help out and contribute. And finally, my story got published in the outlet that does the Panama Papers for the Eurasia region, so Azerbaijan, Russia. So I was investigating whether an airlines owned by Azerbaijan's dictator had got Pentagon contracts and a loan guarantee from the US Export-Import Bank. So I managed to crack that story wide open. It created like fairly good impact, like there were calls for Congress to investigate and other things. But after I finished that story, it was like, okay, now write your grant so that you can write your next story. And it was kind of like demoralizing, like it got this huge impact, but now I'm back at square one. Then after that, I joined CGNet Swara, which you can see over here. So CGNet is an outlet which believes in democratizing the media. So similar to how we have in politics, we have democracy. We can elect our kings, but in the media, we basically have the owner, who's like the king, and you have reporters who are like ministers. So how do we actually start bringing democracy to these regions? So what they had, which was very interesting, was they were operating in a war zone. So I spent about 5 years in this war-stricken area in central India, where the tribal population would call up a phone number, and they would record a message in the server saying that teachers are not coming to our school, we are not getting enough food to eat. That would be listened to by moderators who would fact-check the story, and they would share that with digital volunteers like me who would mobilize, call up government officers, tell them why is it not being solved, and that would help solve the problem. So that's basically how I started, and like in 2017 is when I began working with them, and my university was giving a lot of grants for students who want to start their own startup. So that was actually the motivation behind starting VoiceDeck. So we incorporated it. We managed to win some challenges from the SIPA in Columbia University. And then the first technology we piloted was called Learn to Earn, which is a model of advertising tech where we pay people to listen to information. And but that business model didn't work out for many reasons. After that, we piloted another technology for sharing news through Bluetooth, because in that war-stricken area, a lot of the reporters didn't have Wi-Fi or internet. But they would often go to the market, download videos, and then share it through Bluetooth with people in no internet areas. So we created a model to share the news via Bluetooth. 2020 was when the lockdown happened. So during that time, we had a lot of calls coming in saying that we need help getting back to our cities. We are running out of money and food. So that was like a really hectic time. For those 4-5 months, it was like I was barely sleeping and doing a lot of work and trying to help people who were distressed during that time and connecting them with government officers and getting them back. In 2021, we made a big upgrade where instead of just a phone number that these citizen reporters could call, we integrated that same phone number with the WhatsApp Business API so that anyone with internet can WhatsApp their story and anyone without internet can continue to call the number and report their story. So that was a pretty big breakthrough in terms of being accessible to people with internet and without internet, and also being sustainable. WhatsApp API was cheaper than a toll-free number. 2022 was the time that I got kind of burnt out by writing a lot of grant applications. For anyone here who's written like grant applications, it can be a very soul-consuming process. And I began thinking about what business model can we have which will help me never write another grant application again. And finally, we landed up on the idea of impact certificates. So, yeah, the formatting is not showing on this one for some reason. But in general, what impact certificates are is, right now, if I create some impact, I have to then market that impact to as many funders as I can get an audience with. So that privileges impact marketing over impact creation because you can sell your impact multiple times. What impact certificates do is you can only sell your impact one time. So you create an impact, you register it as an impact certificate, somebody buys that impact certificate, and now you have money for your next impact, which will again let you create another impact certificate. So it kind of rebalances the equation between impact marketing and impact creation because you're solving that problem of selling impact many times. And the reason this is important is CGNet, which I was working at for 5 years, like I was the only English speaker in that organization other than the founder. And when you're the only English speaker, all the fundraising work comes to you. So it's actually very difficult for grassroots organizations to raise money in the traditional model because they don't know English, they don't know how to write grant applications, other things. But in a model of impact certificates, like you don't fund based on a brand, you fund based on an impact. So similar to how when you're going and buying t-shirts, you can give money, get a t-shirt, inspect it for quality and be like, yes, good, I'm going to buy it. And you get it immediately. But in the impact field, it's like, you want to give money and then you have to just choose a menu of brand names, Red Cross or UNICEF or any of that, and then you give money and you never know what really happened to the money. You might be added to an email list that asks you for more money, but that's the limits of it. So this is kind of the journey once we had this idea of how we actually got started with building out things. So what I found in terms of the Web3 funding ecosystem is quadratic funding is great for keeping the mission alive. So it doesn't give you a lot of money, quadratic funding, but it does two things. One is it shows you how relevant your idea is, because in Gitcoin rounds, you're always on Twitter Spaces during those 2 weeks, and you start building up followers, you start building up interest in your idea, you get feedback in real time. So it's really motivating, even other than the money, to just like see in those 2 weeks that people actually care about what you're building. And it gives you just about enough money to actually just keep yourself alive, so sustainable, because startups only die when the founder runs out of energy, and quadratic funding is great for making sure that doesn't happen. But it can't really take you to the next level. So what did help us was hackathons, like this one actually, at ETH Prague. The one we took part in was Funding the Commons, which was a big breakthrough. Funding the Commons organized a hackathon where anyone who wants to hack on public goods would come together on their Discord and form teams. So I managed to get a world-class designer, a smart contract developer. And the best part of hackathons was there's no financial commitment. All you say is that, hey, if we win, we'll split the money. And if we lose, it's fine. Like, we gave it our best shot. And as the founder, you still made progress on your product, which is awesome. So we came second in this hackathon, and we managed to win $9,000, which we divided between us. So it was quite a good success. With quadratic funding, one thing I'll say is that it's very important to choose the round that you want to participate in, because for example, in Dora Hacks, in one of the rounds, for every $1,000, it gave me like $30,000 in matching fund, which is crazy. And in others, like $1,000 gives me like $200 in matching. So there's a wide variability. in choosing the right round to take part in. And finally, the progress we made in these two helped us get direct grants. So the dirty secret of the grant world, which I spent a lot of time in, is that it's easier to get money for things you've already done and you want to scale or like take to the next level, rather than things that you have ideas for. So if you just go and say, hey, I have an idea, no one is interested. If you say, I've done X, Y, Z, and with your funding, I can reach A, B, C, then people are usually interested. And the other secret is that you first get the grant, and then you apply for it. So usually you have to do outreach by yourself, and then you actually apply for it. So yeah, this is where I managed to get the next billion fellowship at the Ethereum Foundation. So they are basically looking for people who are the embodiment of a good story. This is an insight that the next billion team had at the EF, which is that they are not looking for people with good ideas. They're looking for people who are good stories. Because that's what's going to inspire new people to come on chain and to get new users on board. So the support they gave was very interesting. They have monthly one-on-one calls. So they found that I was blocked by not having a team. I was having to do hackathons and quadratic funding to keep things alive. And they connected me with Poland Labs, which is a team at the EF which moves from project to project, similar to Poland. Like Poland moves from flower to flower. So every 3-4 months, they choose a new project to work on and hack. And they chose my project, so we built out our entire test net. So this is like the minimum viable prototype. The formatting of the slides has been really affected here. But basically how it works is the citizen reports an issue. The citizen works to solve it. When the issue gets resolved, an impact report is published on their website. So all of this is done by the media outlets that we work with. Where we come in is that once the impact report is published, we then evaluate it, we mint it on chain, and we find people to buy these impact reports, and then we give back the money to the citizens. So that's the model that we built. So here's how it looks if you go on our website, which is app.voicedeck.org. So these are some of the stories. So we've started with 27 stories from 3 media outlets that we work with in India. So these are all past impacts. So these are stories that are on their website, which we've taken on chain. So for example, this one is one of my favorite ones. There was a teacher, like India has a scheme called the midday meal scheme, where children who are attending get free lunch, and that motivates them to read. Like parents want to reduce the feeding costs of their children, so they send them to school just for that one meal. Like they don't care about education or any of that. They care about the fun free meal. But this teacher was embezzling money from that scheme, and because of that, the children were not getting the lunch. And the journalist found it out and reported on it, saying that this teacher is corrupt and doing this sort of thing. And that teacher got suspended after the story got published. And the self-help group, which makes the food, so that's the cool part about midday meal, that there's also a women's self-help group which makes the food. So you're empowering women and you're improving education and helping children. So that women's self-help group got back their money, the children got food, and the teacher was suspended. So this is one of the stories that people can directly support. They don't even need to know who the media outlet is. You like this impact, you can just directly go and support it. So here's another story, and if you click on a story, this is the tab that you would see. This was a story about a human trafficker who got arrested because the journalist went and exposed that human trafficker and reported on them, and then the authorities were forced to take some action because of the outcry. And so if you click on support this report, then you would get MetaMask and you can directly support it. And also leave a comment at the end. Like the market we want to tap is the gifting market. So we've seen a lot of trends in the effective altruist community that we don't want gifts for our wedding or baby shower or a birthday. We want only blessings. But no one really wants to go empty-handed. So what they do is they buy a Save the Child gift card and they say, I made a donation in your name, and other things. So we're trying to tap into that market where you can support reports and do it that way. Yeah, and then we also quantify the impact, benefit cost ratio. This is quick calculations that you can see on app.voicetech.org where you can click on a report. This is the last slide. So this is how we need help from here. So if you're an evaluator, we have many more hyper certs that we want to quantify. Hypercerts are the Web3 protocol to take impact reports on chain, built by Protocol Labs and the Hypercerts team. If you're a developer, we are an open source project, so definitely check out our GitHub and see if anything's interesting to you. Operator, that's the main work I'm doing now, like outreach to new media outlets, writing grant applications. If you're a media outlet, more impact certificates, always looking to bring people on chain. And with a funder, like just if you see voice deck in any QF round, in any Gitcoin round, please throw us $1. That always goes very far. Once we launch, we are on testnet now, but we plan to launch on OP mainnet. So that, even make a few purchases of impact certificates or even direct grants. And if nothing else, just follow us on Twitter at VoiceTechDAO or the Devansh Mehta. I tweet every day, so yep, keep you updated there. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Devansh, for this insightful talk. Do we have any questions for Devansh? We have one over here. The mic is coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What's your opinion on how to address issue with the biased fact checkers?
Right. Biased fact checkers. So there's a difference between investigative reporting, where a journalist might spend 1 year on a story, and what I call situational awareness journalism, where I go and I write a story, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in Russia. All of that is giving awareness to people, whereas with investigative reporting, I'll be finding out that Vladimir Putin has these particular assets in Moldova or in some other region. So it's very specific. So fact-checking then, for investigative reporting, fact-checking is existential. Because you're speaking truth to power, they will always be looking for mistakes that you make, which can invalidate your entire story. So, when I was working on the Panama Papers, and that's our North Star, trying to bring the Panama Papers on chain, their fact-checking is, they themselves want to be very thorough in fact-checking. But when it comes to the other model of journalism, there they want to be less thorough because they want clicks and eyeballs. So actually being wrong on the facts but getting a lot of eyeballs is profitable to your business model. So it's really about the incentive structure difference between solutions journalism, which is what I'm dealing with, and situational awareness journalism, which is what CNN and others are dealing with.
Another question? I think there was another one. Questions? Okay. If there are no other questions, then thank you, Devansh. And last minute. There's always a last minute question. Be brave. Take it easy. Say it again earlier. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, hi. Thanks. It's a very interesting talk. Actually, I was wondering, for the impact certificate. So I guess it sounds like it's very crucial to kind of quantify it in a right way and to be kind of not biased and even verifiable. So what is the approach there that you follow?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. With evaluation, the approach we've taken is initially what our thinking was that if we have many evaluators who are quantifying the impact and we take the mean or the median value, then we prevent bias, because there are many evaluators doing it and each of them are doing their own calculation. But when we tried to actually do that approach, it didn't work out well in practice at the early stages. What actually worked out better was similar to Ethereum's governance, which is consensus, that I produced a set of evaluations, I sent it to the media outlet, and they got back with a detailed spreadsheet saying this is why your analysis is wrong and this is the correct analysis. And then we incorporated that within our final version of the analysis we did. So actually getting that consensus was better because the media outlet agrees, we agree, there's no one is going to complain after that. So that's how we've approached it so far at the early stages.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We still have a bit of time.
Yeah, one other quick point I would say is that the reason of why it's important to quantify in the first place is that many funders don't want to select individual impact certificates to buy because they just don't want to, they don't want to go through that effort justifiably. So when you quantify impact, you can create a central pool of money which anyone can put money into, and that automatically goes to buying impact certificates from highest to lowest benefit cost ratio. So if you just put money into the pool, you automatically get back the highest rated impact certificate. And that's kind of why it's important to quantify it in the first place. Like we know that blockchains are good for solving trouble spending problem. Whether we can also use that to solve the trouble selling of impact, I think that's like the main play over here, yeah.
Questions for the last time? If not, a big round of applause for Devansh. Thank you.